Good morning. I'm Tom Campbell, Director of the Metropolitan Museum, and I'm pleased that you can join us here today for the opening of the Costume Institute's exhibition, Punk, Chaos to Couture.
1, 2...
In a way, it sort of makes sense that a museum like the Met is doing an exhibition on a cultural movement that's had such a huge impact on not just fashion, but and the arts in general. Yes, it was originally a street style, and it was all about low culture, but it's been elevated over the years, and it's become this extraordinary movement that's had much more longevity than I think punk's ever imagined. In a way, every designer's touched on punk. In one form or another. Every designer is extraordinary in terms of its reach. But I decided to focus on designers who have engaged with the punk aesthetic on a deeper level or more continuously. So that helped me narrow down the actual designers in the exhibition. There's 4 manifestations of do-it-yourself that we explore in the exhibition. One is the idea of hardware, how punks would use studs or safety pins or zippers in their clothing, really as a symbol of almost cruelty and anarchy and chaos. And designers have adopted that over the period. One of the first designers was Zandra Rose in 1977 in a collection called Conceptual Chic. And it really was the first time that a designer looked to punk for inspiration. We have a section called bricolage, which looks at how punks used to co-opt everyday objects, usually from the basest of context, sort of like tampons or toilet rolls, and incorporate them into their clothing, sometimes as a critique of consumer culture. And designers like Martin Margiela, Galliano have continued this idea of recycling everyday objects and giving them new meanings. And then we have a section called graffiti and agitprop. Punks utilized in the 70s, often as a vehicle for propaganda and as a critique of economic stagnation of the government, particularly in London. And I think with designers like Vivienne Westwood, Moschino, Martin Margiela, they've continued the idea of using graffiti and words on their clothing, again, as a way to really explore particular sort of political positions. And then the last gallery is called Destroy, and that looks at the idea of deconstructionism. I think that the idea of ripping and tearing your clothes, very quickly it became an aesthetic of poverty. And I think designers such as Rei Kawakubo, Yohji Yamamoto, they continue that tradition into the idea of deconstructionism. But the show never really set off to be a comprehensive history of punk. It was very much a specific take on punk, which is the impact of punk on high fashion.
And it's lovely seeing my work in context against other things, which is quite lovely.
It's a very sort of conceptual approach to the subject, and I think it was never meant to be a trip down memory lane. Early on, I decided not to include any clothing by actual punks themselves, like the Ramones or Johnny Rotten or Sid Vicious. I felt it was a bit too much sort of rock and roll Hall of Fame or Hard Rock Cafe, and I really wanted it to be about high fashion. Everybody has an opinion about punk. Punk means so many different things to so many people. I am a little bit anxious in terms of how people are going to respond to it. I hope it is I think people will either love it or hate it.